Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live broadcast with me, Richard Vobes, here at the Bald Explorer Central Station. And here, for your delectation, is one of my mugs. And there's another mug. And, of course, they are available for purchase. If you've accidentally dropped one of your mugs, do go to baldexplorer.com where you can get another one. And why wouldn't you? They're lovely. Lovely mugs. They have a handle and they can hold liquids. It's great. Anyway, that's all I've come on here to say. So goodbye. No, wait. No, don't be silly. We've got some reading to do. We're reading In Search of England by HV Morton. And he's a very nice chap. We are just over, well, I suppose we're 2/3 in now. We're enjoying this one. This has been a great read so far. Hello to Adrian from Turbo Stream, to Cynthia, to Trev, to lovely Julia, to Sean, and to Johnny Parsons, to Ed Loud, James Poulton. I've just had a little reminder sent to me. That intro would be good on just a minute. Oh, thank you very much. I've had a little reminder sent to me. We booked, the lovely Julia and I, a week in a canal boat, on a narrow boat, on the Oxford Canal, I think it is. And I've had a reminder to pay the balance of that, which is quite a considerable sum, as you can imagine. I put a deposit down just before the lockdown and thought, oh no. But anyway, as far as they know, all is good for the holiday in October. So I just confirmed with the lovely Julia. I said, "Here, you still want to go with me on holiday in a canal boat a second time?" She said, maybe, yeah, all right. I suppose I could stomach that, she said. With Joe, of course. Oh, excuse me. So I will pay the balance off and we will be going in October on the canal boat. So, yippee! Very excited. I hope we have better weather than we had last time. Also, just on that note, on canal boats note, we are going to be meeting up with Rich and Fran from Floating Our Boat on Sunday. And I have been out today on a recce to find a nice walk to take them. They're driving down to Brighton. And we're going to meet them and go over the South Down somewhere. So that's all very exciting. All good news. So there we are. Trev says there is a lot of hire boats moving around now. I bet there are. Well, we had booked ours up ages ago, as I say, before lockdown. Probably about a month before lockdown. Or even, something like that. February time. Wanted to book it. And make sure that we got it, really. We nearly went in May. Glad we didn't choose that one because we wouldn't have gone. Anyway, so that's all good. Very nice couple, says Trev. Yes, they are. We've not met them, but I've watched their videos and, they seem they are very lovely. And they've rung in, they watched the Vogue show and all of that. Brian Davis, hello to you. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming along. Lee Lawson is here. Hello, shall I listen while I bake? I shall listen whilst I bake a cake. Ooh, I wonder what kind of cake that's going to be. I'm hoping to bake some bread to give to Rich and Fran so they can take it back and eat it aboard their boat, whose name is... I nearly said Cassandra then, but it's not Cassandra. It's... what's the name of their boat? It's something like that, isn't it? Somebody will tell me anyway. Anyway, there we go. I'm Ria. Hello, Ria. I'm cooking lots of different curries whilst listening. Oh, fantastic. That would be nice. You must tell us some of your recipes. Hello, says Morton Lewis. Hello, Mr. Morton Lewis. Lovely to hear from you. I think you sent me an email recently. I haven't replied. Please don't take exception to the fact that I haven't replied. A lot of people send me emails in reference to my land grab concept. Constanza. Yes, that's it. Constanza. We are on chapter 7, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I will film with Rich and Fran, Adrian. Yeah, going to film. I've filmed the walk, so everyone will know where we're going. But actually, the criteria was to go on a walk without cows, and I managed to find a walk with cows. And in fact, there was 2 loops. I wanted to do a circular journey. There was one, and there was cows in his field, and I went, "Oh, bugger!" So I thought, "Hang on a minute. There's another loop that way. I'll do that." Yeah. And then I got halfway down. Well, I got down to the bottom of this hill, and then there were more sodding cows with calves. Cows and calves. Anyway, all good. Pinched from YouTube, says Rhea. Oh, good. Everything's nicked from YouTube, isn't it? I never take exception, Richard. Oh, good. I never take exception, just money. Oh, well, take the money then. Take the money and run. Chapter 7, ladies and gentlemen. I admire 3 lovely sisters of England, Hereford, Worcester and Gloucester. I cross the border marches and see a castle still watching Wales. In a field I come to the ruins of Euriconium. I think Euriconium must be Rochester, is it? And in Shrewsbury I have a nightmare. Oh, right. Oh, that's interesting. That'll be very good. Fran loves cows from a distance. Yes, I don't like cows either. And anybody who listened to my podcast this morning, The Naked Englishman, which goes out to my patrons, will have heard my reaction as I was walking. I recorded it on location. And as I was... It always sounds better when you say I recorded it on location, doesn't it? Somehow sounds, very Hollywood. I recorded it on location. Oh, it's very BBC, isn't it? Very BBC. I recorded it whilst I was walking. Yeah, not quite the same. But anyway, you will have heard my reaction as I approached the cows. I was slightly nervous. And then in the video, I haven't edited the second video, the one which will actually go out on Sunday, you will see my reaction. So there we go. Good afternoon to Dun Ladlow. Nice to see you. Right, here we go. Let's get into this and see how we get on. My first impression of Gloucester was that of a city full of small, comely maidens between the fortunate ages of 15 and 25. He makes me laugh, this man. The fortunate ages. How delightfully put. In the evening, they wear flowered... Oh, now... Viole? How do you pronounce it? Where's Linda Kane when you need her? It's Voile. Voile? It's oil in the middle, isn't it? Voile? I don't know. The material favoured by the taller maidens of Botticelli. And they walk up and down Northgate and Southgate streets with the cathedral bells as a sweet accompaniment to their preambulations. Some of these small maidens are pretty, others, thanks to wise nature's laws of compensation, have beautiful legs. Some of these small maidens are pretty, others, thanks to wise nature's laws of compensation, have beautiful legs. So in other words, they're pig ugly, but, all right with a paper bag on their head. Sorry, don't go down that road. He is rude. Had I more time to investigate this appealing problem, I believe that I would discover that during my last 20 years or so, 6 girls have been born to every boy in Gloucester. Local authorities to whom I have broached the subject attribute it to the match factory. Well, it's interesting because this is, of course, after the First World War, so there would have been actually fewer men. So that's just fascinating in itself, I suppose. Most cathedral cities visited by me in the course of my search have been true to type. Winchester, Exeter, Wells, all sheltering beneath their historic cathedrals like dear old ladies under an umbrella. Gloucester is more difficult to discover. Unlike so many English cities through whose streets history has been flowing for centuries, Gloucester has not sought refuge on the retired list. This city, owing to its geographical and other reasons outside the scope of this story, has not lacked the vitality of human endeavour since its right-angled streets were laid out by the 2nd Legion of the Roman Expeditionary Force in the 42nd year of our Lord. Here is something more than a great cathedral dreaming among elms. Here is a Roman, Saxon, medieval city that has thrust its way into the industrial era without quite losing touch with an older time. Gloucester is a cathedral city, a manufacturing city, a county town that knows what cartloads of cabbages look like, a spa, for you can drink the waters of Gloucester, and a port. How many people know that Gloucester is a thriving port, the most inland port in England? How many people? This discovery is borne home to you in a sudden and rather surprising manner. I've been to Gloucester, and you think the tall ships can come in there. I think there is a tall ship in dock somewhere in Gloucester, I seem to remember. But all the warehouses that he would have seen there are all swanky apartments now. It's and they've done them up. It's very nice. What is this? You could never get away with writing this today. It's almost refreshing. The lecherous old sod, says Ed Loud. Yes, it's well, you know, it's all good fun. Oh, here we go. Dan says, yes, you've given me, that doesn't help, Dan. If you can give it to me in phonetics, because I don't understand the pronunciation that those shorthand things mean. Voy. I need it more simpler. That if you've got a word that it rhymes with, that always works with me. That would be great. Something like that. In a shower of rain, says Audrey. Gloucester docks. They built wide canal service to the warehouses of the day. Ah, yes, there you go. Think of the Limerick puddle and associate that with Gloucester. Didn't know it was a port. Voil. Oh, is it voil? Thank you. Oh, it is like oil. Voil. Ah, like royal and voil. Thank you for that. Very much appreciative. Anyway, let's crack on. Yes, it's you're standing. Yes, the discovery is born to you with a sudden, rather surprising manner. Like foil. Thank you. Oil. Yes. All right. I've got it. You are standing near the cathedral. A man wearing a blue jersey and a seaman's cap goes past. You think that he has either been shipwrecked in the Severn or is spending a holiday home from sea. 3 or 4 seamen meet him at the corner of the road. If you're new to Gloucester and inquisitive, as all travellers should be, you follow them, and they lead you onward away from the cathedral to the port of Gloucester, where ships lie at anchor against the quays, between tall flour mills and grain elevators, now swanky apartments. You realise with surprise that Gloucester is a little Liverpool of the Midlands. She has a graving dock, floating elevators, timber stores and coal tips, all neatly hidden away in the broad estuary of the Severn. Here the railway lines run beside the wharves. The sound of the steam cranes mingle strangely with the chime of cathedral bells. What I and all the other casual visitors love about Gloucester is the unusual experience of living in a medieval inn. When Edward II was murdered in 1327 and his shrine in the cathedral became a famous place of pilgrimage, the fortunes of many inns were founded, and some of these inns still remain to shelter the traveller. Ah, if only people did take a pilgrimage these days to look at Edward II when he was murdered. The inn in which I'm staying and writing is entered through a huge archway constructed to admit a cavalcade, a pious lady in a horse litter or a coach. The inn is built around the paved courtyard. A flight of stone steps in this courtyard leads up to an oak gallery running the four sides of the yard, from which are the bedrooms, so that I can open my bedroom door, lean over the gallery, and keep in touch with everything happening below. It's all so interesting and intimate. I see, as I lean outside my bedroom door, the new arrivals drive into the courtyard and book their rooms. I see the chambermaids busy around the gallery. I see the boots down below in the courtyards booting. I see the waiters crossing the yard bearing trays of food, because 600 years have not been able to bring the kitchen, which is at one end of the yard, any nearer to the dining room, which is at the other. In the depth of winter, every egg and every breakfast rasher has to be carried through the snow to the table. Hail conservatism. Yes, conserve that tradition. I suppose travellers have been leaning over this balcony for 600 years, watching much the same scene. Arrivals, departures, dusting, cleaning, food. I'd like to know when the proximity of cleanliness to godliness was defined. Certainly not during the Middle Ages, for there was only 2 baths in this inn, and in the morning the chambermaid summoned me with the voice of a sergeant major. "Will you take your bath at once?" And I had to dash along the gallery to my place in the queue. The thrill of Gloucester Cathedral is one that can never be forgotten. I stood dumb with admiration between the great drums of the nave, built by men who knew how to design fortresses. The height, the proportion, the simple strength of these great columns is beyond description. In the choir of Gloucestershire, I don't know what that was. That was just a strange, quirky noise that came out of the earth, like some little troll sitting there controlling me. You will be. I am a robot. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. You're putting people off all their cooking. They're trying to cook and they're going, "Oh, what's he doing? What's he bloody doing now? Just read the book, for goodness sake. I'm trying to get this curry mixture all up and running." Yes. Stood stump. In the choir of Gloucester sleeps Edward II under a rich canopy. It was to this tomb that the pilgrims of the Middle Ages came, with such profitable result that the monks rebuilt the church and abbey from the proceeds of their piety. I've been to Gloucester and I've got a video if you're interested. If you put in Vobes Gloucester Cathedral, it will come up in YouTube. Then the Cloisters of Gloucester. They stand alone among the cathedral cloisters of England. Their delicate fan vaulting is a sheer miracle in stone. It is actually very, very beautiful. The cloisters is remarkable and worth having a look at. And if you can't get there, I've got a video up there. Did I mention that? And I've got a mug which you could fill up with some liquid whilst you're watching the video, and drink out of it like that. Only hopefully less noisy. As I was walking at night in Gloucester, admiring the Roman layout of the city, at one moment lost in Glevum and at the next in medieval Gloucester, I heard from beneath the ground, it seemed, the sound of music. "The hills are alive." No, Julie Andrews was not there. I went into an inn yard and came to a flight of old stone steps leading downwards. Above them was a sign, "The Monk's Retreat." I descended and entered a cool, dusty cellar, which would make the fortune of any man in Montmartre. At first sight, it appeared that the crypt of a church had been turned into a saloon bar. In a long, dim, vaulted cavern, men sat drinking beside beer barrels. A bar ran the length of the vault, and a tireless electric organ occupied a remote corner. It was a weird, slightly sacrilegious sight. Had the occupants been Frenchmen and not solid Gloucestershire farmers, I would have been prepared for some kind of shameless cabaret. As I sat down beside the barrel and cast a curious glance around the dusty vault, I noticed in one corner a confessional box, and in another a stone stoop for holy water. I imagine this to be the most remarkable bar in England. Some think this place... Sorry, I had to quickly look there. There was a gap there. I was looking to see who speaks. Some think this place was an underground passage built in the old days so that the pilgrims could get from their inn to the cathedral, said the barman. And others think that centuries ago it was on street level. Half a pint, said an inhabitant. The electric organ whirred and gathered itself together before plunging into a new tune. The old inn courtyard was dark. A light shone in the gallery. In the gallery, casting shadows over the flagstones, flinging the shape of the great beam over the stone steps. I climbed up and leaned over the balustrade to stand a moment looking down into the yard that has seen 600 years of wayfaring. Modern Gloucester was hushed, and in this place it seemed a memory of old things lingered. Over the city passed a pearl of bells, and in the square of sky above the little courtyard shone a few faint stars. No, that's very nice. Very nice. What do we got here? A pink group. There was a punk group called Edward II. Oh, and the Red Hot Pokers. Was there really? That is amazing. John Willoughby, hello to you. Thank you very much. Christian Soldier, hello Richard. Hope everyone's having a great day. Yeah, lovely, thank you. Ed Loud says, a robot reminds me of that episode of Snug and Cozy where they have the device strapped on their head and allows you to control a remote control. I must dig out the rest of the episodes of Snug and Cozy and get them online. I've got them somewhere on a VHS. Fine here. I love your username, says Morton. Yes, Christian Soldier. Good for you. Right, we'll crack on. In Herefordshire, the fruit trees stand with their lime-washed trunks in long grass. The air is drowsy with the pungency of summer fields. And over hedges the traveller sees men and women tossing up the yellow hay and tossing down the yellow beer and the pale gold cider, for this is the thirstiest job on earth. The pickers are busy in the fruit trees, and in the lovely Wye Valley, which is a rich greenness of scenery that is unforgettably England, black satin cows stand at the edge of streams and rivers, swishing their tails in a patch of shade. Herefordshire, Gloucestershire, and Warwickshire are the three lovely sisters of England. I do not know which I admire the most. In the early afternoon I stopped at Ross. I climbed beneath those elms planted by the man of Ross, and I looked down at the bend in the river and out over the green country that lies in calm beauty to the mountain of Wales. This is, I think, one of the most magnificent panoramas I have yet seen. In the River Wye, small shrimp-pink children were bathing, and in every dark patch of willows stood cows chewing the cud and letting the water ripple past their legs. Hereford. A sweet, neat, smokeless, fruit-smelling town with some splendid half-timbered houses. I came to it over the Wye Bridge and saw the red sandstone cathedral standing with a gold cloud over the central tower. Gloucester Cathedral has grandeur. Hereford, with its richly ornate Norman nave, has a solemn sweetness. The nave of Gloucester creates wonder. The nave of Hereford leads the eye to the east window, where it stays content. They were singing an anthem. The great church contained only 19 people. They sing an anthem every afternoon in this empty church. That's not an empty church. If you've got 19 people in it, that's full by today's standards. I forgot the urgency of my day. I forgot everything about the high, sexless voices of the choir echoing. It seemed from it seemed from above the high altar. I saw nothing but the little flushes of pink and blue falling on the stone through the stained windows. The organ of Hereford is, with the exception perhaps that of Westminster Abbey, the most beautiful I have ever heard. It is, as it should be, the voice of the cathedral. Its calm sweetness places a hand over the spirit. And in this church, with the organ whispering through the aisles, the world and its problems seem over the hills of reality. The anthem ended. A gold cross shone a moment in the ray of sunlight, and the white choir left the church. The treasure of Hereford is the Mappa Mundi, the map of the world, drawn on one huge sheet of vellum by a 13th century monk. It's kept in the south transept, shut in by oak doors. I wonder if that's still there. I opened these doors and looked at this queer vision of the world, one of the earliest attempts at a map known to us. It's an education in medieval geography. The earth is drawn as a round, flat object with Jerusalem in the centre, as the Greeks visualised the position of Delphi, the Persians Gangdig, and the Arabs Iran. This is Jerusalem. I have set it in the middle of the nations around her, says Ezekiel. In the Vulgate of the 12th verse of the 74th Psalm runs Operatus est salutum in medio terrae. England is... I don't know what that means. Maybe somebody could look that up. Operatus est salutum in medio terrae. Sounds good, doesn't it? England is drawn at the bottom left-hand corner, a little country full of cathedrals. What a wide, wonder-struck fairyland was the world of the Middle Ages. I've never forgotten a sentence which G.K. Chesterton wrote in, I think, A Short History of England, a history, by the way, without a date in it. The Middle Ages, he wrote, were full of all the world worships in children, because it has crushed it out of men. They were full, as the modest remains of their vulgarest arts are full, of something that we saw out of the nursery window. I'm not sure I understood that or read it very well. Is solemn sweetness an oxymoron? It could be. That's very good. I agree with that, Julia. Many years ago I've seen them. What did Julia say? I can't see Julia's. Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh, Richard. Yes, you must upload more Snug and Cozy. Oh, golly, that was a, yeah. I will do my utmost. Utmost. That reminds me, Laurel and Hardy stand eating a display of fruit made of wax. Oh, yes. Laurel and Hardy. You only have to mention Laurel and Hardy and you instantly want to go and watch a film, don't you? By them. Obviously, not by Buster Keaton. You mention the names Laurel and Hardy, and there you are. You just suddenly go, I've got to watch one. I've just got to watch one of those lovely films. Ba 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 bum ba bum ba 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 bum ba 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 bum ba bum ba 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 bum ba bum ba bum da ba ba bum. The sun was sinking when I entered Worcester Cathedral. In the choir, with his feet to the high altar, lies King John, a man who has not left one good memory behind him. What queer tricks fate plays with men, so often preserving the evil and obliterating the good. King John directed that his body should be buried between the tombs of Worcester's two saints, St. Oswald and St. Wulstan. The saints have disappeared, but the bones of the wicked king remain covered by a portrait effigy, which in 1216 was the lid of his coffin. It is a splendid piece of work. It shows him crowned, wearing the royal robes, and when new, it was coloured. During restorations in 1874, the Office of Works, which has charged all of the royal, which has charge of all of the royal tombs, made the hideous mistake of gilding it. Oh, did they? An interesting fact about King John's tomb is the light cast on an ancient legend when it was opened in 1797. The story went that John, realising his slender chances of attaining heaven, ordered that he should be buried in a monk's gown, with the idea, apparently, that he might hoodwink the doorkeeper of paradise. When his tomb was opened, it was seen that the rotted remnant of a cowl lay over his skull. They show you an engraving of this grisly sight in the chapter house. Another tomb in Worcester pulled me up sharply. The chantry of Prince Arthur, the elder brother of Henry VIII. Here is one of history's best question marks in England. Suppose this prince had lived. Henry VIII, who was educated for the church, would have been Archbishop of Canterbury. What course would the Reformation have taken? Good question. No idea, mate. No idea at all. I found my car in the shade of an elm tree and headed towards Shropshire. As I went, I thought what a fine thing it might be if the deans and vergers of other cathedrals in England would take Worcester Cathedral in its treatment of the public as their model. Worcester Cathedral welcomes the visitor at the gate and will give him a seat in the choir if he can be persuaded to stay for a service. Wherever he goes, he's made to feel welcome. Each tomb and each monument is labelled. Worcester Cathedral recognises that our cathedrals, as I have noted with surprise and delight, attract enormous crowds of men and women of all classes who are seriously interested in them as the repositories of our history, or conscious that in them lies the clue to the knowledge. With the shadows lengthening, I crossed the border into Shropshire. Oh my, into the border of Shropshire, the mad fool. I've been into Shropshire many times. Not often that direct. I had gone in from that time, because you probably go through Leominster, don't you? In that way in. But I normally would go in. I used to go up on the M40 when I used to see Harriet, regular as clockwork, up the M40 from London. Round on the well, it depends, because I used to go round the M42 onto the M5 and then onto the M54 and back onto the M6 and then the M54. But sometimes I'd go the other way round Birmingham, and go onto the M42 and go at junction 3 and 2-1, get on the M6 from that side and up onto the M54 into Shropshire. But I have done it through Kidderminster, Herefordshire, Leominster, up then Kidderminster, then up through, you bypass Bewley, don't you? And then you go into what's it called? North Bridge North. You go through Bridge North, and then Bridge North and up that way, if I remember rightly. Anyway, that was a load of rubbish, wasn't it? Google Translate the work in the centre of Salter. Oh, right. Okay, thank you for that. On the trail of the lonesome pine. Oh, I remember seeing it. Henry VIII, Archbishop of Canterbury. I wish he was now there to be none of this PC nonsense. Oh, yes, that's true. I go via Kidderminster up to Bridge North and along the A5. Oh, yes, the old A5. And under there's a viaduct, isn't there? little viaduct. I think a Telford viaduct, a little tiny thing. You go underneath, little iron viaduct. If I remember right, Bridge North, Much Wenlock. Yes, Much Wenlock, and there's the cathedral there, isn't there? Is it Much Wenlock? There's the cathedral. I catch a train and I can sleep. Good idea. Yes, I say kiddie. Kiddie, kiddie, kiddie. Here, kiddie, kiddie. Right, Harry, let's crack on. There was dust in my eyes, dust in my throat, and dust in great clouds behind me when I came up from the lowlands in the early evening. In an oak-panelled room, the pewter glimmered like moonlight on still water. I'm just gonna wonder if he goes into Shrewsbury before he gets there. I have no idea. I haven't read this, but I wonder if he stays. Be interesting. There's 2 hotels. There's one that's no longer there, but I wonder if he stays in the Lion. Is it the Red Lion? The Lion? The Lion Hotel. The Lion Hotel. I've videoed in there. I wonder if he stays there. There was another one. Oh, what was it called? But it's now a department store or shops and things, and I don't know when that came down. But the Talbot or something? That seems to ring a bell. Anyway, in an oak-panelled room where pewter glimmered like moonlight on still water, I poured a pint of ale down my throat, and the rim of the tankard was like a bar of ice against my forehead. A neat freckled maid, wearing a starched cap on a red head, brought yellow cheese on a plate, and with it a great paving stone of white bread. How, I wondered, have I refrained so long from praising bread, cheese, and beer, the most significant, romantic, delicious, satisfying food that can pass the parched gullet of a wayfarer? Fat men in saloon cars can nose the French menus of Sole Colbert or Bordelaise, and for many dishonest hashes devised by otherwise honest English cook. Fat men in saloon cars can nose the French menus of Sole Colbert. Colbert, is it? I don't know what it is. Colbert, probably. And Bordelaise, or Lays, or something. And for the many dishonest hashes devised by otherwise honest English cooks. But when I'm hungry and the white road lies behind me mile after mile, give me bread, cheese and beer. Sorry, I read that absolutely pathetically. I don't know why. Sometimes I just suddenly the words dance about. The beer was of a deep mahogany brew and sufficiently potent, for I was weary and susceptible to it, to lift me a little above the earth, so that sitting in the cool room with a great blaze of late sunlight beyond the window, I was conscious of a romantic desire to fight or to pray, which is the essence of medievalism. I put on my dusty hat as if it had been a helm with a panchet towering above it. I strode out into the hilly streets of Ludlow to admire those raiding, fighting bordermen, those Welsh-beating, sturdy salop knaves, still driving before them, between rows of half-timbered houses, big brown cows and fatted sheep. I imagine, however, that today the cattle really do belong to them, which just shows you how time alters all things. There was the smell of wood smoke. I had stumbled across the Vobes' Essie. Blimey. England, as I noticed between Cornwall and Devon, has the knack of changing her expression in a mile. Gone now are the green Worcester valleys, the neat, pretty Hereford orchards, the trim Gloucester fields. Here we stand on the wild borders of Wales. This town of Ludlow sits on a fair hill at the junction of the Tame with the Corve. They still practice archery in this town. They call themselves the Archers of the Tame. Where the Tame bends beneath the high headland stands the majestic ruin of Ludlow Castle, the most famous castle from Chester to Hereford, the most extensive border stronghold spared by time. I went over a dry moat and talked to the gatekeeper. "Yes," he said, "it does look—" I don't know how, I can't do a Shropshire accent, so don't ask me to do one. "Yes," he said, "it does look as though you'd find things under the grass here, but the only things I found when I dug this bit of moat out was 3 halfpennies." We mourned together for a while, and I went on to the inner ward. So silent, so drowsy with afternoon sun, the shadow of turrets over ruined walls. Grass grows in the great hall. Little pink flowers sprout from the lion's den. Ferns raise their green heads in the armoury. I found the rooms once occupied by Edward V and his brother before they were removed to the Tower of London, never to be... See, really? Oh, for goodness sake, Verbs. Come on. I found the rooms once occupied by young Edward V and his brother before they were removed to the Tower of London, never to be seen again. In a watchtower, I looked through a thin arrow slit and saw far below the river, and far to the west the blue hills of the blue hills of Wales, not the Blue Ridges of Virginia. For hundreds of years men dined in Ludlow Castle with swords easy in the scabbards, ready to come out at the first shout from the ramparts. Here lived those turbulent Lord Wardens of the Marches, who sat for centuries with their hands on their sword hilts and their eyes on Wales. When the whistle of an angry sword had become almost a novelty in other parts of England, it was one of the ordinary rural sounds in the Marches. When the sight of a man lying in the grass with a red throat shocked London. What? When the sight of a man lying in the grass with a red throat shocked London, they had no inquests in... Oh, I see. When the sight of a man... See, this is what happens when you haven't pre-read the chapter. You can't quite guess where the structure of the sentence is going. When the sight of a man lying in the grass with a red throat shocked London, they held no inquests in Shropshire. And while in less troublesome counties men were building cosy manor houses, the Marcher barons were still reinforcing their keeps and deepening their moats, the first diehards. Feudalism indeed died hard in that chain of castles from Chester to Hereford, the old Norman first line against the Welsh. Each castle a violent little garrison, ready always to sally forth at a warning shout, watching always for the beacon light, listening always for the sound of a horn from the hills, a telltale movement of long grass, or the flash of the moon on the sword. It was with a feeling almost of reverence that I realised here, in the marches of Shropshire, with Welshmen always at hand, Englishmen were once too busy to kill foxes. Life was a game of chess. Now to the other. Unless a man kept himself quite up to date in affairs, he might visit his friend and find his enemy. There was Maud de St. Valery, who, for a whole year, her husband being away after someone else's blood, defended her castle against Wales. It fell in the end, and she survived only to be starved to death in Corfe Castle by King John. In the middle of the inner ward of Ludlow rises one of the 4 round churches in England. It is a beautiful Norman tower with a sky for its roof and the grass for its floor. Several ancient, indignant goats gaze up at me as I entered and ceased cropping the grass. I wondered whether Marion de la Baia prayed here. She must have done. She is a lady in the only surviving medieval romance written round an English castle. It is the Geest of Fulk Fitzwarren, of which few people who visit Ludlow know anything. In this story is told how Marion, who was the ward of the Baron of Ludlow during the reign of Henry II, fell dangerously in love with a captive knight called Arnold de Lisle. One night she contrived to give him a rope, and he escaped, life then became rather pointless to Marion. It is not difficult when one walks the towers to imagine, when surrounded by Welshmen, with no one quite sure what. It is not. We are coming to the end. Have no fear, ladies and gentlemen. I'm putting you through torture today. It is not difficult as one wonders. It is not difficult as one walks the towers to imagine, when surrounded by Welshmen, with no one quite sure that the smell of burning was really the arrows, or someone trying to come in the front door, that Ludlow Castle was hardly a cheerful place for a young girl. I imagine Marion de la Bayère sitting at her turret, too miserable to get on with the tapestry or even to knit the dear Baron a woolly, gazing over the exasperating hills and sighing, "Oh, if only I could see him again, that lovely straight nose of his. Oh dear, I shall die." One day the Baron, things being dull at Ludlow apparently, decided to sally forth with his men at arms and kill somebody, just to keep things going on in the marches. Marion sought this opportunity to send a message to Delisle, telling him that it would be quite safe for him to come to her, and he did come to her one night when the moon was not too full. When she was in his arms, a great tumult arose, for he had not come alone. He had brought a storming party with him, which was already in possession of Ludlow. When Marion realised his treachery, she did the only thing open to a self-respecting girl. She took Arnold's sword and ran it right through him, opening the window, and died on the rocks below. Thus, life in the age of chivalry. I'm not quite sure who died there. She took Arnold's sword and ran it right through him, and opening the window, died on the rocks below. Presumably she threw herself out then, did she? The eyes of the angry old goat remained fixed on me in the chapel in which Marion must have prayed for her lover. An attractive theory, that of Pythagoras. Suppose this was Arnold condemned to look so stupid. An attractive theory, that of Pythagoras. Suppose this was Arnold. Is he talking about the goat now? Suppose this was Arnold, condemned to look so stupid and to wander about these grounds, eating the grass, which he had trod as a captive, a lover, a traitor, to love and to conquer. "Arnold," I said, "you deserve everything that's come to you." He looked at me like an outraged elder and shook his whiskers, whereupon a neat, slim she-goat of considerable attraction leapt nimbly from a window ledge and ran to him affectionately, nosing his whiskers with a white muzzle. "Don't trust him," I said. But, womanlike, she tossed her head indignantly and jumped through the window again. I think there's a bit of poetic licence going through there. High above the Tame, fronting the Welsh hills, Ludlow Castle stands, an air of gallantry about it still, and a certain truculence. It gazes with its little arrow slits over to Wales, as if not quite sure whether peace has been made with the hills or not. I think we'll stop there. Oh, he's going to get to Shrewsbury. I want to know if he stays at the Red Lion, but I'll have to wait now. Damn it. Hey ho, hiddly ho. Well, sorry, there wasn't terribly many humorous moments in today's episode. Lee Colbert is a large ridge of sand on the French side of the English Channel, parallel to the Varne, off Boulogne, France's largest fishing port. Thank you for that, Dan. There is little more satisfying than local bread cut roughly and served with British cheese, beer. It's making my mouth water. Plough on. Ludlow is a World Heritage Site. Is it indeed? Thank you for that, Morton. They speak like that in Dudley, kip of tea. Have a kip of tea. Ed, the beer is in the fridge. Oh, lovely. Would you like a kip of tea? Milk and 2 sugars, please. Oh, there we are. Would you like a kip of tea? I recall being in a pub in Ironbridge, Shropshire, in the 90s, and they referred to Brummies as outlanders. Yeah, That's true. I was trying to remember something that Harriet used to say about those from what's that place near Wolverhampton? Wolverhampton. Yeah, that was just grand. Thank you very much. If my memory serves me, there is a lively pub in Ludlow called the Unicorn. There is, and the lovely Julia and I, and two of our, I don't think Maggie and oh, what was his name? Her husband and the little dog Dottie. Maggie and me. We went there, met them, and had a lovely meal. I don't think they watch our stuff. They go round in their little VW camper van. Very nice people they were, and it'd be lovely to meet up with them again. But sadly, who knows? Maybe they drove off a cliff. I hope they didn't. They were very nice people. If you're watching, Maggie, get in touch. And Maggie and what was Maggie's? Rob. Yes, thank you, Julia. Yeah, Rob and Maggie, lovely couple, lovely. Enjoyed meeting them. But there we are. Anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Oh, I heard from Maggie lately. Did you? Oh, marvellous. I don't hear. Maybe they snub me. Maybe I'm snubbable. Am I snubbable? I'm just so snubbable. Don't blame them, really. Anyway, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been very nice talking to you. Don't forget you can like, follow and subscribe. But, of course, you can get a lovely Bald Explorer. Did I mention the mugs? I may not have mentioned that we have mugs at baldexplorer.com. And every penny of that goes to science. If you believe that. I don't know what science it goes to, but it goes to some form of science. The science of my bank account, I think. Anyway, thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you. It's Friday, isn't it? So nothing doing tomorrow and the day after. Back again on Monday. But there will be videos, of course, in the morning. And there's a Vogue show tonight. But it's only me tonight because the lovely Julia's husband is on a late. So she can't get over here. I'm off to eat bread and cheese and beer and to annoy Ed. Good man. Yes, I've got some homemade bread. I haven't got any homemade cheese. I've got some nice cheese, though. And I've got some tomatoes. No, you fool. You were snug, not snubbable. Oh, cozy, you slimping slum slappard. Until the next time, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. And those of you watching the Vogue show, see you later. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.